Advanced Studio Classroom is on the air. Thanks for joining us today in your window on the world. Today we're going to talk about communicating the right way, so stay tuned. Well, this article is on communication, and that's what we're trying to do right now, is to communicate with you. So let's say hello to everybody out there.
Hey, everybody.
Hey.
Hi.
Communication. Isn't communication a great thing, Hazel?
It sure is. We need to know one another and talk to one another, encourage one another, correct each other, all kinds of things.
What did you say?
What did I say? Weren't you listening?
That's the name of the article. What did you say?
Oh, that's right. What did you say?
But Hazel's known for her daily phrase, and that's her daily phrase today, like you have on Let's Talk, Hazel.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's a good one. What did you say, right? Well, our article today is on page 42 of the magazine, and it is about communicating, and I'm glad that Hazel could come to the class because she's usually on all the other programs, the TV and everything. So thanks for coming to Advance today, Hazel.
Sure, you're welcome.
And you like to communicate. And then, of course, we have one other of our teachers who is actually one of the teachers on Studio Classroom TV. So how are you today, Rebecca?
I'm doing very well, and I'm excited to talk about communicating because I think communication is a very important part of life.
And you have a very important guest with you today. Who is that?
I do. My sister, Katrina.
Your sister, your younger sister.
My younger sister, Wadameme. She's here visiting just for a few months, and she gets to be on the program today. Hi, Katrina.
Hey, Katrina, how
Hi,
are
everyone.
you?
I'm wonderful.
You went to school here, right?
I did. I went to Taipei American School.
Taipei American School. How old are you now?
I am 20.
20. Oh, boy, she's still pretty young, huh?
Well, compared to some of us.
Yeah. But you know what? You communicate from the time you're born. Usually about 1 year old you start in.
Well,
right?
you start crying when you're just a little tiny baby, so that's communicating.
And they communicate by crying sometimes,
Yes,
right?
that's right.
Yeah. But communication is so important because we want people to know what we want, what we need, and what we feel. But sometimes we're not just sure. So the name of our article today is, What Did You Say? And what page is it on?
This is page 42 of your Advanced magazine. So please turn to that page and follow along.
And we're going to find out at the very beginning how to handle conflict on social media. Now, that's not a very easy subject, is it?
No, it's actually not an easy subject because conflict, I think conflict in general is not always an easy subject to deal with. But
I don't
think
like
it's
conflict, do you?
No, who likes conflict? I don't like conflict, but it's definitely a necessary part of life, and knowing how to deal with it in a healthy way is also very important.
Well, especially on social media.
Right, and actually we're going to find out in some ways it might be easier to try to handle conflict on social media, but it's probably not the best idea.
That's right. That's what we're going to find out today in this article that was written here in this Chicago Tribune, and it's on page 42. So let's take the first section. Let's go ahead and read the very first section now.
What did you say? Communicating the right way. How to handle conflict on social media. With roughly 326 million monthly active users on Twitter and a whopping 1.4 billion daily users on Facebook, it's fair to say that social media has become ubiquitous within our culture and daily lives. The pseudo sense of connectivity it provides can make sharing your feelings on the platforms seem normal. But is addressing a conflict via social feed truly the best way to reach reconciliation? Likely not. Suzanne Deggs-White, co-author of Toxic Friendships, Knowing the Rules and Dealing with the Friends Who Break Them, said approaching conflict resolution through social media is harmful to interpersonal relationships. Social media does not give place for nuance, history, or circumstance, she said. When you use social media this way, you're not going to solve any problems, but dig a deeper line in the sand between you and the other person.
There's so many articles on social media because that's what everybody's into these days. And how do you handle conflict on social media? That's a tough subject, Hazel.
Yes, and should we or shouldn't we? It starts out with telling us how many people use social media, and it's quite a few. Roughly 326 million monthly users on Twitter. And a whopping, now that word means so many, it's amazing, a whopping 1.4 billion daily users on Facebook.
Well, they use a word here, ubiquitous, which is one that we've used many, many times in advance, and it's kind of a big word, but it seems like we need to use it because it means that there's just so many that you just can't even tell. Ubiquitous, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, so the word ubiquitous is ubiquitous.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes we hear it a lot.
Anyway.
So it's infiltrating. It's everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. It's everywhere within our culture and our daily lives. And of course, we're talking about how people are involved on social media. And actually, people spend a lot of time on social media.
Oh, they do. Do you check your
day.
Facebook every day?
I check my Facebook maybe every other day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I actually don't post a lot of stuff on Facebook because, well, I'm very careful about what I post because if you post controversial stuff,
well,
people,
and I think Facebook is better just for people to show what they're doing to their friends or grandmas to see their grandchildren and stuff. But we shouldn't post everything every time you don't feel well to put it on Facebook. It's not. You don't have to tell the whole world.
Right. I've actually seen some people, especially people who are pregnant, and they literally post every stage of their pregnancy and post pictures.
Or they're sick or something.
Or they're sick, yeah. And I feel like maybe that's a little bit too much.
And some people show
information.
everything they had for supper and stuff. So what, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
They like the whole world to know.
Do you watch Facebook or not?
I do. I don't use it too much, but I do see a lot.
Well, and when you're over here, you might want to let your folks know how you're getting along, so you put it on Facebook and they can see it.
That's
so
right.
it's got its good points to it. It's just that we don't always know how to use it. Isn't that right, Hazel?
I agree. One of the good points, a lot of people that I went to high school with, maybe I didn't even know them well, but I'm beginning to have a friendship over Facebook, so I like that. I'm like you, Rebecca. I don't post a lot, but one reason I don't is because my friends take pictures and then they post, so I really don't need to duplicate the same things.
Well, and certain events happen, you can show.
Sure, and it's fun
like
to
that.
share different things, but I agree with you. There's a lot of things I think are personal and I don't really need to post or want to post, and when other people post things like that, I just shake my head and say, why does
why did they
everybody
put
need
that
to
in?
see this, you know? So be careful what you post.
Or when people are having a hard time, they're feeling depressed and really down, they'll post like a whole paragraph or longer about how terrible they're feeling. And I'm thinking, is that really necessary? I think it's not.
Well, you know, it's kind of a fake thing. This word pseudo here means is that you think that you're connecting with people, so you're sharing your feelings, and it seems normal. But it's not normal to share your feelings with so many people. Mm-hmm. You know, when you paste on Facebook, many people can see it. You want to show it with your close friends, maybe. But I think people forget how many people can see that.
And you know what's interesting is, I mean, I have friends on Facebook that became friends on Facebook. I don't know how, I don't know when, and I go through my friend list and I'm like, wait, how do I even know this person? And they can see anything I post. And sometimes it happens, you know, people just randomly add you or request a friend, you know, to be a friend, and then you add them. You don't necessarily know who they are.
That's true.
That's true. And strangely enough, I have a few friends on Facebook that I've never met. And I think if I ever met them in person, we would probably hate each other. But it's kind of fun to go back and forth and just get to know them a little more. And maybe having very different points of view. If I'm positive about it, maybe at some point they'll change their view or think differently, or at least check both sides of a situation. So it's kind of, I think it's kind of fun to have people with different views on
that's
Facebook.
true, and that's what we're talking about today. It says down here we're addressing this conflict via social media, and is that the best way to reach reconciliation? Now, what is reconciliation actually?
To perhaps you have a disagreement and you come to grips with that, and you decide to still be friends and
Like
not
maybe
let
you
that
got
separate
angry at
you.
something. You say, well, then you put it on Facebook, and then you can just say whatever you want. And is that going to make it okay or not?
Probably not. So it's probably not the best way to reconcile or eliminate that stress or that conflict.
Likely not. Probably not. That's what we're going to talk about, isn't it, today?
I feel like in general, reconciliation should definitely be done in person.
Definitely.
Face to face. When, I know that sometimes there is conflict on social media itself, right? You post something and people disagree with you, and then all of a sudden you have conflict on social media.
That's true.
But in general, I think reconciliation should be done face to face.
Well, this Suzanne here, she said she's the co-author of this called Toxic Friendships. Now, the word toxic means poison friendship. How could you have a poison friendship? That's strange.
I've had a few, and it's not pretty.
Right. But in knowing the rules of that, and you have to deal with friends who break the rules. So how do we do that? So she said she's approaching this conflict resolution through social media is harmful to interpersonal relationships. Now, I think that's true, don't you?
I do. I definitely do. And of course, when we talk about interpersonal relationships, we're talking about how you're connected with relationships through people, right? But in general, I think it's very harmful to try to deal with conflict through social media. First of all,
there's so many other people that have nothing to do with it. They shouldn't even know about it.
Exactly. And I do believe that there could be a lot more misunderstandings. You say one thing and people misunderstand what you're saying, so they say something else, and all of a sudden you have all of these misunderstandings and just more conflict and no resolution.
And all these other people expressing their opinions. There's also, you could message someone, and it could at least be personal and not not let everyone
send
in
them
the
an email.
conversation. Yeah, face to face might be better, but you can't always meet with someone face to face.
Well, that's true, but you don't have to put it on Facebook. See, but it says here in the second column here that social media does not give place for the nuances that we need, because you don't get the background for everything, see? And you're not going to solve these because you're just trying to you don't let them know all the things involved. They can't on social media.
Yeah,
they can't answer you. They can't ask you anything.
Right, so they can't ask you questions. They don't know the background of the situation.
Yeah.
They're basically jumping to conclusions based upon a little bit of information.
But since you're digging a deeper line in the sand between you, that's an interesting way to say that, Hazel. What does that mean?
Yeah, I might even say digging a deeper hole.
Yeah, I think
you're just getting into the situation deeper and not resolving anything, but getting in more trouble.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I think I like the word nuance. It just means that, maybe if you're talking on the cell phone or if you're talking face to face, you can say something and people might know a little bit more about your emotions or what you mean by that,
And
if you're
the way
joking
you
or
say it,
something.
the way you
but if
say
you
it.
just see the letters on Facebook or on Twitter, you don't really get that nuance. So you could take something completely in the wrong way.
The feeling of it, right.
Right, the feeling.
Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with it, the way you say it, don't you?
Absolutely. And of course, when you say stuff on social media, people, they can't hear the tone.
Right.
They don't know your motives.
Well, even
They
in
don't understand.
emails, you can't do it
Right,
the same way.
exactly.
So we'll have to find out then the best way to communicate, because this is what we're trying to find out, is how to communicate the right way, and we don't think that that's the right way to communicate, especially a conflict.
Right.
It's okay to communicate happy birthday or how are you, but not a conflict. That's what we're talking about. So let's take the next part is, are we really communicating? Let's read the rest of the lesson.
Are we really communicating? Degs White said most Twitter users don't expect a response to their tweets, so using the public platform to share private details operates more like a megaphone. You're not allowing for a conversation to take place, she said. It's kind of you just venting. It's infantile, too, because you're not giving someone a chance to speak back to you. Social media is not meant to be a main source of communication and personal exchange, explained Degs White. But its ease and accessibility can embolden people to use their Twitter fingers before going directly to the source of conflict. Having to look someone in the eye, that's what takes courage, she said. On social media, we are invulnerable and invincible. It has no positive impact if you're really wanting to communicate with someone about something real.
So are we really communicating when we use Twitter and Facebook and social media, or are we just posting things that don't really matter or even make situations worse?
And that's a really good question. And I would have to say, Hazel, that we probably have more of a tendency just to be telling people. We're not really communicating. We're just like talking to people. We're not really expecting much of a response necessarily, especially using Twitter.
Right, right.
Yeah, we shouldn't really use public platform like this to share our private details because, we don't need to tell everybody everything.
No, we don't.
And this is one thing that people have to learn, how to use social media better.
And I was just going to say, you know what a megaphone is, right?
Yeah.
It makes you hold it up to your mouth and it makes you shout. It makes your
That's
voice
what we used
heard.
to have before we had too many microphones. We used megaphones.
And still, for some sporting events, they use these little electric or battery-powered megaphones, and you don't expect someone to answer you. You're just shouting out what you think or what directions somebody should follow. And so it's not a two-way street.
It's not conversation.
Right.
It's just making some kind of proclamation or an announcement, right?
That's right.
And that's what they're saying about Twitter. Twitter users don't actually expect a response to their tweets.
You know who likes to use Twitter a lot?
Yeah, Donald Trump.
He's known for using
He loves Twitter.
He's used Twitter a lot, But you're not allowing this conversation to take place, so it's kind of in a way like venting. Now, this word venting is kind of just another way for saying complaining, saying what you don't like. And sometimes when people say something, you say, well, I just had to get it out because it's inside of me. I had to vent. I had to get it out. A ventilator is something that lets everything out, right?
Right, lets the air out. And we used to say to get something off my chest.
Yeah.
Oh, I just had to tell somebody and get it off my chest. To vent. So what do you think? Good idea?
No.
Well, I think that sometimes we do. It's, if you're in a safe environment, you have a close friend, you can vent to them, but then as soon as you vent, you have to let it go and move on. Because venting can easily turn into gossip. If you vent to one person and then another person and then another person and then another person, then all of a sudden all you're doing is gossiping. And I believe there's a difference between venting to a person that's safe and venting on social media. Very different.
That's true. In fact, it's very infantile, which is another way of saying it's very childish, isn't it?
Yes, that's what it
kids
says.
do that.
Right.
Mama, somebody hurt me. And they say, it's like what that kids do, right?
Right.
Have you ever vented, Christine?
I have, and sometimes it has gotten me in trouble.
Yeah, we get in trouble sometimes when we do that, Depends on who you vent to, But it's better if you can learn how to control some of those things yourself, isn't it?
Right, and I like what Rebecca said to someone that's safe. So someone, if you have a close friend and you know they're not going to repeat it to anyone and you know they're going to
That's
listen
different.
and then later know that you were just upset and that you just wanted to share it with someone and not take it in
But you
too
know what,
seriously.
Hazel, I think instead of saying venting, which is to me is really strong complaining, and it's not necessary, it makes the other people feel bad. I think you could just say you could communicate with somebody else by telling them something. But venting is more kind of like an angry thing. So it's probably better not to vent. It's sort of communicate or to express yourself or to kind of do that. But when you vent, it's sort of like you're angry or sort of.
Well, that's true. You make a really
if you
good
could
point.
control it and not do it, it'd be
So
better.
we use the phrase too, blowing off steam. You know,
Yeah,
you just have
that's
to
right.
get your anger out.
Yeah.
And maybe you
Go
should
to the ocean and blow it out.
Maybe
Yeah.
you should exercise or
Yeah,
do
something else, right.
else.
But in general, I think it's wrong whenever you share something with the intention of creating negative feelings in the person's mind that you're sharing with.
And it hurts the other people, too.
It does.
Yeah.
So, like, if I share something with you, Doris, with the intention of you having negative feelings toward the person I'm sharing about, I feel like that's wrong.
Right. And it doesn't make anybody feel good, see? So you've got to be really careful with that one. But social media itself is not meant to be the main source of communication, right?
That's right. I think that, well, for me personally, social media is purely a platform where maybe I share a few thoughts here and there, but I definitely don't want it to be any sort of communication. I mean, a main platform of communication.
Yeah, how does that explain it? What did she say here?
Well, it's easy. The ease and accessibility can embolden people to use their Twitter fingers before going directly to the source of conflict. In other words, you feel like I can say anything. Nobody can hurt me. Doesn't matter.
I feel
just
this way,
let
I'm
it
gonna
out
just
and
say
see
it.
what happens. It doesn't you don't think carefully before you
But
go
you
to
might
your
be
Twitter
angry and
fingers
later
before
on
you
you're
type
sorry,
something
but
out.
it's kind of hard.
You
You
might
can't take it
regret it
back.
later, but you might cause a lot of harm in the meantime.
You know, once you say something out, you can't take it back. That's what you have to remember about the venting part. But when you see somebody face to face, then it's a little bit different, isn't it?
Well, it definitely is different because you have to look someone in the eye, and that actually takes a lot of courage.
If you don't like something they did and you have to go right to them, and then you could say that, and then I could tell you why I did it, but you don't want to hear that, see? So you want to communicate. You don't just tell people, right?
Right. But you know, I think it shows how mature someone is if they're actually able to have a conversation and they're able to sit and listen as someone shares how, you know, they hurt their feelings and then actually take it and accept it and be like, I'm sorry.
But what happens on social media, you see, well, I can say whatever I want and nobody can say anything because I said it. I'm invulnerable. You can't touch me because you can't see me. So I can say whatever I
And
want.
sometimes on Twitter, people don't even use their real names. Nobody knows who they are, perhaps, and so then they
That's a
really
good
are
idea.
invulnerable, and they can read the responses or not. It doesn't matter to them sometimes.
And I just wanted to clarify, like, it seems like our lesson is specifically talking a lot about Twitter. You know, and it seems like with Twitter, there's not necessarily a place for a lot of response. Now, like on Facebook, if you post something on Facebook and it's controversial or people don't like it, you might get a lot of responses, which could therefore end up turning into more
That's
conflict.
true, yeah.
But it's still this idea of not having a conversation with someone face to face.
Yeah, says here that it has no positive impact if you're really wanting to communicate. Communication is two-way, not just one way. Communicating is not just saying something, but it's connecting. And you can't connect unless there's somebody there to connect with.
That's right.
And you know, on Facebook, you can actually delete something, but people can read it before you delete it. Like I responded to something, and I was just being funny, but it's a person I don't know well. And then I thought, you know what? I just don't want them to take this the wrong way, so I deleted it. And actually, they responded they had seen it. I mean, they didn't say we've seen it, but they just said, oh, that is so funny. And I thought, whew, well, at least they thought it was funny. I had even deleted it because I wasn't sure. So you need to be careful even before you post.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
Delete if you have second thoughts about it, but it might be too late.
What does the small print say here at the bottom of the page on 42?
It says, Deggs White highlighted 3 benefits of face-to-face conversations and how to go about them when trying to achieve successful conflict resolution. You can actually resolve the issue. Challenge yourself to have a conversation and to find ways to engage. The more you do it, you'll get better. You can gain empathy for the other side. Be willing to listen to the other person's point of view and be accepting if their opinion differs. And you can learn to be wrong. When we admit we're wrong, this is the only way we learn.
That's pretty good advice there.
That's right. If you realize you're wrong. Sometimes I think, why am I posting this? Is it just to get my view across? Is the person I'm posting it to really going to change their point of view? Probably not. And so a lot of times I really want to post something and I think, don't do it. It will just
make any difference.
It just cause a lot of opposing opinions and a big fight and make me upset. So just don't even post the first time.
So it can't really actually resolve. It can't solve the problem.
Right.
You're just saying what you think, and so it just doesn't really do anything. So be very careful how you use your communication, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or whatever it is. And don't try to resolve any problems you have with other people that way. Try to do it personally, right?
That's right.
And that's good advice.
And I also think it's important to try to be willing to listen to the other person's point of view. Perhaps they have a different point of view, but you don't have to judge them, and you don't have to condemn them and make them feel like they're stupid for having a different point of view than you.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned that about listening, because that's our lesson for tomorrow. So tomorrow we're going to find out how people listen, how well they listen. And so be sure and come back tomorrow when we continue at this lesson. Will you all be here with us?
What did you say?
What did you say is for today? But
that's for today.
Yes, I'm all
is
ears.
Listening.
I'm all ears.
Okay. See you in class tomorrow, everybody. Have a good day today.
Bye-bye, everybody.